Welcome back to Big Country Politics on KTAB.
Well, hello and welcome to this week's Sunday Conversation here on Big Country Politics. I'm Manny Diaz, and this week our special guest is candidate for City Council Place 5, Miguel Espinoza. By the way, if you haven't noticed, we're in the new digital studio here at bigcountryhomepage.com, the campus of KTAB and KRBC. So, Miguel, welcome.
Yeah,
this is the second time we've had you here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, you know, it was fun watching you way back in the day on Friday nights. Doing your thing for the Abilene High Eagles. Now it's been interesting to see you kind of evolve a bit into the political realm. Before we kind of really open this thing up, tell me about election night, May 3rd, the emotions, everything that went into that, because I imagine that was a wild and crazy night.
Yeah, it was intense. What made it really, really nice is like all my supporters were there, all my people that knew me before I even started this journey. So all those people are with me. They're encouraging. They were probably more nervous than I was, which was kind of funny because I'm excited. You know, it's a blessing. It's a great opportunity. But just to have all my people there, that meant a lot to me.
Wow. I guess, you know, now that you're going into a runoff, when you finally got the notification, you know, this is heading off to a runoff, it's to level 2 of this.
Yeah.
What was going through your mind at that point?
Well, we kind of expected it a little bit. You know, having 3 candidates in the race, you knew that everybody's going to pull votes in their direction. A lot of it was just making sure that, you know, we had enough to force the runoff, but it was, you know, it is what it is. You never know what's going to happen, like with the voter turnout and all that. So we were excited to push it on to the next round, and hopefully we give it another good push to, you know, make it through.
Yeah. Because this was a 3-person race, you know, it was you, Kyle, McAlister, and Cynthia Alvidrez. How, I guess, what has been the campaigning like in effort to maybe get some of those Cynthia Alvidrez votes while maybe taking some of the Kyle McAlister votes and securing what you had on May 3rd? Yeah,
well, what's crazy about it is we had a massive push of just people, campaign contributors, a lot more endorsements coming in. That's been super helpful because, you know, anytime that you go into a runoff, you know, you need more advertisement, more, you know, signs to really help you get over the top. And my supporters came out swinging. They came out with, you know, more, you know, money to help me do that, a lot of endorsement letters to help us, you know, push not only people that came out and voted the first time, but to hopefully also get some additional voters to come out and vote for me, you know, on the second go round.
Right. The issues, you know, and we'll kind of tackle that, but, you know, is certainly what you're seeing on the ground level, or certainly some of the things that are surrounding the city council here in a bit. But what you're hearing, boots on the ground, when you talk to people, because I imagine you talk to a lot of people, probably more than we can count for days. What are you hearing the most? That people happy about, not so happy about? What are you hearing?
Well, the main thing is people are excited for change. I think just in my conversations with people, they're like, you know, you're a CPA, you understand what goes on with the budget. Just here recently, there's been a massive push for financial transparency and understanding what's going on within the city, and having a CPA to really help you explain and see the accounting, somebody who knows this is where, you know, the flow of the transaction is going, to help explain that's a big deal to people. And just also with, you know, I appreciate, you know, long service, but people do like fresh ideas, fresh perspective, and representation. That's what I've noticed. There's been a lot more hunger for in my conversations with people.
When you watch, you know, or when you see city council meetings and you kind of go through that, how much are you dissecting the X's and O's in terms of, you know, oh, maybe I could do this better, or they're doing this okay, they're doing okay at this, or how are you dissecting that from a CPA's perspective?
Yeah, one thing that I've noticed is they like to run a lot of things through the general fund. And what I mean, my general understanding is, you know, it frees up a lot of their options cash flow wise, what they can do with the money. But just from a budgetary standpoint, what I've noticed, what people are wanting to see is that, like, street maintenance, for example, that there is a proper amount allocated within that fund to keep up with annual maintenance, because we already know we're behind on that front. But people are very hungry to see that allocation, to know that, look, money's going there versus it kind of just sitting in the general fund. Money is going to that issue, but it seems that people want the money in that fund so that they know that this money has to be spent on this specific item.
Wow, so you can dissect that.
Oh, I see it, yeah.
So I mean, is that a hard thing to do, to really kind of break it down though, for the lay people? Like, I mean, because whenever I'm watching these things, I mean, and still, like, I've watched city council meetings, a lot of municipalities in a lot of different cities over the years, and it's like, my gosh, what are they talking about?
Yeah.
Speak English to me, my man.
Well, it's interesting because, I mean, that's what I do for a living. Okay. You're taking very complex federal tax law and you're trying to explain it to a person in their business, how that applies to them. And so it's a natural conversation that I have on a daily basis. And so for me, it's normal to me because that's just the way I see the world. I see it in the debits and credits, the revenues, expenses, everything flowing, all the accounting. That's just the way I see it, And so whenever it comes to like breaking it down for people, I'm like, well, this is what they're spending, this is where it's going, and this is what it's designated for. And that's with my experience with nonprofits too. That's part of being a CPA. That's what you do. You're there to help people understand.
Yeah. Alrighty, we're going to take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, more with Miguel Espinoza, candidate for City Council Place 5, kind of talking about voting records, that and more when we come back.
Welcome back to Big Country Politics on KTAB.
Well, welcome back to Big Country Politics, a Sunday conversation. Our special guest this week is candidate for Place 5, Abilene City Council, Miguel Espinoza. Miguel, this is, you in the general election, the municipal election on May the 3rd. This is very close. This is now heading to a runoff on June the 7th is election day. Please rock the vote. Just go out and vote,
Yes.
more importantly. Tell me, what's life been like since learning you're heading into a runoff and having to really do this all over again?
Yeah, I mean, it's you gotta go. People are excited. I'm excited. So just to have this opportunity, it's been a huge blessing. But yeah, just bringing forth energy. Just the more and more conversations you get to have, the more you get to learn about Abilene, all the people that because it kind of gets a little bit more attention.
Sure.
People are like, there's a runoff now. If they didn't consider you a serious candidate, they're now taking you a lot more serious. So they're like, maybe I need to talk to this person and let me get his perspective on a few more things. And so I've had a lot of people reach out on the second kind of go around, and it's been cool to just meet more people and learn, what their priorities are and how they kind of see the political landscape, right now.
Right. Well, before the election on May 3rd and here this week, there was a certain individual, we won't put their name out there, but very critical of your voting record, saying that you have not voted in a municipal election here in the city, and really kind of holding you to the fire with that. You can find that. I imagine you can find that. You can find the post on Facebook. We'll let the folks check that out. But I think we should allow you to add some context to that. If you can, talk about that, and certainly when you see that and when you talk to people, what are you telling folks about that?
Well, yeah, it was something that for sure came up whenever I was, excuse me, when I was endorsed by the Realtors Association. Excuse me. They vet you. And one of the things that does come up is your voting record. And I was very transparent with them, and they knew that I had not voted in a municipal election, and my background with voting, and that, I don't come from a political background at all. And one thing that I just, I told them, these are my qualifications, and I don't feel like my qualifications and my skill set reflect my voting record. So for someone to hold that against me, that's kind of on them for what they prioritize as a candidate for city council. That's on them to weigh, but I would highly encourage people to consider my qualifications as a CPA, somebody who's very active in the community. And if you have any questions as far as what that means, voting for a CPA, what I do for a living, all the things that I do nonprofit wise, even at the state level on the committees that I serve on. Those are things that I'm happy to field and, make sure people know about. But when it comes down to my voting record, I don't feel like that should be weighed against me, especially as somebody who's as young as I am. It's not typical that, I think it's great if you are, and I would encourage people to get involved in politics early on, but not everybody has that opportunity. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that should be held against somebody as a negative. I think when you do get involved, I think that should be encouraged, and that should be a big positive instead of a negative.
This individual that is putting that out there, putting out your laundry, if you will, have they reached out to you? I mean, it's one thing to say these things behind the keyboard, behind the phone. Have they reached out to have a conversation with you?
I met with that individual once before when I was, considering running, but they have not reached out to me before. I don't know that individual on a personal level. I would love to sit down and have a conversation with her and really flesh out me more as a person, so that she could get to know me better. But yeah, it's politics are politics, and how people align themselves is their business. But if I can, educate somebody, I'm always trying to be a bridge builder, a communicator. I'm always going to be available to talk.
Sure. Well, politicians are always taking arrows, there's a massive target on politicians, and hypothetically speaking, with all that, just because of you put yourselves out there. And is that something that you've kind of prepared yourself mentally, that you were entering this realm, this ring, if you will, the WWE political ring, and now in this corner? Is that something you've mentally prepared yourself for?
Oh, of course. With me, everything's on the table. I'll talk about anything with you. I'm not afraid to open myself up, whether you have a question, broader, on a more broader scale. I'm more than happy to talk about, those issues, whether they're kind of relevant or kind of not. There's certain things that I'm like, well, I would like to stay more focused on the relevant issues, because I feel like that's the most important thing for this election. But I understand people having questions about, your values and your standards for certain things. Mm-hmm. And I've no problem, discussing that with people, because I want people to know who I am as a person, and I hope that that kind of factors into their vote. That they know, hey, this is a person of strong ethics, strong work ethic, and really cares about Abilene, and who's also extremely qualified based upon my resume.
Tell me, what's the biggest issue you're running on? What do you feel, if you were elected, that you could really bring to the council, and certainly issues that can be fixed, addressed in that context there?
Yeah, so as a businessman, economic development, that's my bread and butter. And so Abilene is in a strategic position to take advantage of a lot of economic development. And so that's kind of my big motivation for running, is to really help the city take advantage of all these opportunities that are on the table. Because we're in competition with all these surrounding communities for all of this investment. And so to make sure Abilene is laying the infrastructure and doing the right thing strategically to take advantage of all this economic development that is kind of brewing here, I would love to be a part of that, because I'm going to be in Abilene for a very long time, and it's hopefully I can serve as an example for my kids and my grandkids that, look, this is a wonderful place to live, and to serve your community well, and to take part in whatever your gifts are, apply it to your community, and give back.
In 20 to 30 seconds, give us the campaign pitch here. Why should folks take a chance on Miguel Espinoza?
Well, yeah, I'm somebody who's going to bring a lot of energy to the table. I'm very, financially savvy, and whenever it comes to the budget and the things that really matter to the city, operational wise, I'm going to be a massive asset there. And I think just representation wise, I'm going to serve the city well, and just kind of broadening the diverse skill set that's already on the current council. I think that I'm just going to bring forth a lot of energy, hard work, and really help the community grow.
All righty. Miguel Espinoza, candidate for Abilene City Council, Place 5. early voting is already here, but you can take advantage of the vote, rock the vote, if you will, on Saturday, June 7th. That's next Saturday. My goodness, where is this year going? Nonetheless, for Miguel Espinoza, candidate for Abilene City Council Place 5, I'm Manny Diaz. This has been another Sunday Conversation right here on Big Country Politics. We'll see you next time. God bless.